they're so busy trying to say, how do we get two kids in with our dad and make sure they've got popcorn? Meanwhile, close that section over there with the 200 kids in it. It's balmy, it's weird thinking.
I came to the BBC in Glasgow to speak to Stuart Cosgrove, author, radio presenter and football fanatic. He spoke about football fan culture in Scotland, as well as the media and police treatment of fans and ultras in the country. He started by giving his opinion on the matchday experience at Scottish football.
On the one hand, you have clubs that are trying to maximise the idea of family appeal, bringing in, kids' gates, family gates, cheaper entry for families and things like that, and having, men dressed up as mascots, jumping about as kind of furry kind of animals and things like that to appeal to kids, whilst at the same time appearing to alienate younger teenage men by heavier stewarding and all the rest of it. And I think that's actually quite contradictory. So sometimes clubs make a mistake because of that. They're so busy trying to say, how do we get two kids in with our dad and make sure they've got popcorn? Meanwhile, close that section over there with the 200 kids in it. It's balmy, it's weird thinking.
Stuart talked about the media's effect on Scottish football supporters and whether they are portrayed fairly.
No chance. I mean, if you look at the way in which kind of the media behave, again, they've got kind of two voices here. One of which is the media historically have always loved the moral panic around football fans. That goes right back to the skinheads, the casuals and all the rest of it. They always associate them with disorder, with riot, with chaos, with violence, with wrecked trains, wrecked pubs and whatever. So it's the language of the tabloids that they love kind of talking up these kind of supposedly chaotic moments. But set against that is the Scottish popular press's almost obsessive love of football in England and football amongst the big teams in Spain and Germany, whatever. So you can see them, they're almost like these wee guys that you remember going to school who were almost licking at the sweetie shop window, wanting a bit of what was in there that they couldn't get. And sometimes I think the Record and the Sun come over like that. It's like, well, why have we not got £42 million players? Where's our guys that kind of look like they've got cool haircuts? Where's the guy with the kind of, the sort of leopard skin boots? We want some of that stuff in Scotland. And of course, one bit that they can have is they can have ultras. But what they want is they want their cake and eat it. They want to be hugely impressed with people when they do something like the Poznan, or whether their flares are going off. They want to print the big photographs, welcome to hell, all of that stuff. But if one guy at a Dunfermline game has one flare, all hell breaks loose, and they want the guy tortured and whipped in the street and everything. It's so hypocritical.
Stuart feels that policing and stewarding in Scottish football is unnecessarily over the top in many cases.
I think that people react badly to events in football that in the scheme of things are hardly at the high end of criminality. You're talking about 50 guys chanting about a bald referee on the scheme of things is hardly mass murder, is it? And I think that sometimes Scottish football over polices itself. And I have a belief that games should be categorised at the beginning of the season. You could adapt this, but largely they should be categorised. If I take, for example, St Johnstone and Ross County, who are currently bottom of the Scottish Premiership, there is no great history of animosity between the two clubs. There's no great history of football hooliganism between them. There's low levels of travelling support and whatever. And the idea that activity needs to be policed to the extent which currently happens, either through stewarding or through actually the police themselves. When you're looking at a crowd that's kind of twice the size of of Perth's concert hall, there's no way they'd have that amount of stewarding, policing for a symphony orchestra, and there's as much chance of things going wrong. But because football has got this kind of male image, there's a tendency for police and stewarding to be much more involved than they need to be.
Having spoken to Stuart, it's clear that the media, clubs and the police are all in turn responsible for what could be labelled as the demonisation of ultras across Scotland. The question now is whether ultras themselves can recover and once again find a foothold at grounds in this country.